Who are you and what do you do? Are you ready for some quick fire questions? Have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur, Sarah? What's your most recommended book? Welcome to the JOD Pod, a micro podcast where we interview CEOs, entrepreneurs, founders, authors, and coaches. Today, we are lucky to be joined by Sarah Wernér, CEO and co-founder of Husmus. Sarah, great to have you on the JOD Pod.
Thanks for having me, James.
So for those of us who don't know who Sarah Wernér is, who are you and what do you do?
That is such a loaded question. Like, you ask me that, I'm like, good grief, philosophical, who am I? I'm Sarah Wernér, and at the moment, I am the CEO and co-founder of Husmus. But I don't want to just like focus on what I do as who I am. I'm many things. I'm a wife. I am a friend. I am a lover of animals, and I am a massive foodie.
Oh, I didn't know about foodie. What kind of, rather than just saying foodie, have you got particular types that you're
To be honest, if you leave it lying around, I will eat it. Unless it is chocolate.
So the existence of food is the thing that you're against. Okay, right.
Except chocolate, which makes people a little bit like, what? You don't like chocolate? But I actually do not care for it.
Interesting. I've got so my foodie fact, if you don't mind me sharing,
of course,
is one of my all-time, would be absolute moonshot guest for me. Would be a guy from Netflix.
Okay.
A guy called Phil Rosenthal.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've come across him. Somebody feed Phil.
Yeah.
He is I've got an absolute man crush on that guy. I would love to hang out with him. I'd love to get him on the show. I'd love to just kind of talk to him. And follow him around. I've got him. Yeah. My wife and I went to Tel Aviv specifically to go to all the restaurants that he went to.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, no, I absolutely love watching food shows, but I have to have eaten first. Otherwise, I get severe case of like food FOMO, and I get very cross that they're eating all this nice food and I'm just watching them do it.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Sarah. Do you want to explain a little bit about Husmus and what that's all about?
Of course, yeah. So Husmus is, by and large, just landlord and tenant insurance, but it's got a little bit of a twist. So we provide things to make what I call modern life more convenient and affordable. So we provide cover for rent deposits, pet damage, people damage, unpaid rent, and home emergencies. But what makes us really different is the way that we price our premiums. So we do it based on user behavior in a way that the best behaved renters get really cheap premiums. And that's really because we care about affordability, because we know it's super expensive to rent. I mean, I've rented in London for years and I know how painful that could be. So we just wanted to create something that gives people the ability to rent for cheaper. But then also because we focus on behavior, it's a really inclusive assessment process for tenants, because we're not looking at things like credit scores and like whether or not they're like, a surgeon or a doctor or have a super perceived stable job. We're looking just really at your rental behavior. How do you pay your rent? Do you damage property? Those are the only two things that we care about in our assessment process. And
is that to help? That must help the landlords and the tenants, but does it also help the agents that are in the middle there, or does that form part of the relationship?
So that's a very interesting thing about Husmus is that we go direct to landlords and tenants. And the reason we do that is because, a lot of agents get all the really cool stuff. Like people, prop tech companies out there, they're making things and they're targeting just like agents, and all the poor DIY landlords are just like left in the cold, and they don't have any products that serve them. So that's what's special about Husmus is that we're going direct to these guys who've been completely overlooked and providing things that allows them to rent cheaply, and then B, to give landlords confidence to accept tenants irrespective of their lifestyle choices.
That sounds really interesting to me because I've got properties that I rent out and I get incredibly frustrated by having to go through estate agents to do that. And if there's any tools out there that will help me have a better relationship with my tenants that doesn't involve estate agents, then happy days. I'm sure there is a nice estate agent out there somewhere. I'll probably meet them one day. Sorry, I don't normally get gripey like that. It's very off-brand for me.
Yeah, I think it's more about giving people the choice, right? Like, so if you want to use an agent, then by all means do it. And in some cases, it's called for. If you live, really far away from your property, for example, then you most definitely need one. But if you don't, if it's a house down the street and you could probably manage it yourself, then we're just here to give you the confidence to do that without fearing kind of like financial ruin. So yeah, that's ultimately what we're about.
Wonderful. Husmus, very exciting, Sarah. How long have you been running Husmus for?
So we started in the summer of 2019, so it's coming up on 2 years now. So it was kind of like a labor of love because I became an accidental landlord, and then I thought, aha, you know what? I've been shafted by many a landlord in my day, but you know what? I am going to be the queen of landlords, and people will like me for my awesomeness in landlording. And then I kind of found that, oh my goodness, you act completely differently when it's your money and your house and all of this stuff. And I didn't like that at all because I felt like, I'm a progressive person and I am in life generally just super relaxed and quite, I would say, accommodating and forgiving. So I was really surprised to then find that all of a sudden I was judging people. And, ordinarily when I think that pets are cute, I mean, I have pets myself, right? I'm like, usually I'm like talking to everyone's like dog, cat in the park. Like I'm that person. And then all of a sudden I get a tenant and I'll be like, you have a dog? Oh no, what kind of dog? Like, and then I was like, oh my God, why am I doing this? And then it's fear. It's fear of losing money. And so I think we made Husmus just to help people realize that the person you're renting to is not your enemy and your landlord is not your enemy. What the enemy is the fear of losing money. And so let's get people insurance so that doesn't become an issue. And so those relationships are what they should be. A landlord's providing a service that a tenant wants. And that's all what it's about.
Wonderful. That sounds that's a lovely story, and it's a really nice thing about thinking about that relationship, because certainly the best relationships, tenant-landlord relationships I've had have been, really great because you're all trying to work towards the same thing. That's lovely. Have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur, Sarah?
No. And sometimes I question myself as to why I've done this to myself. I had a really good job. So there are some times, when it comes, the times when I would usually get bonuses for work. So I used to work in pharmaceuticals, right? So I was a management consultant, data scientist there. So this is a completely different world, the world of insurance and renting. So I haven't always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but actually I've always wanted to be a team lead. And this is just being a team lead on a supremely grand scale, which is fine for me because I enjoy that kind of thing. I've always been one of those people who is kind of what people might term actually a servant kind of leader. Like I'm there in the trenches with my guys. I'm like, if we're working late, we're all working late. We're all here for each other. And we're just like, I kind of like to think about it as like, rowing a boat. And we're all just grab our oars and we all have to push together. And that's the only way that it works. So no, I didn't set out to be an entrepreneur, but I saw that this was a problem and I was like, right, okay, well, let's just sort it.
So were you not working beforehand? You quit your job?
Oh yeah, so I was working in the corporate world. I worked for, top pharmaceutical companies. Like I was working on like cancer drugs and getting those out to people. So that was my bread and butter before. But what has been the common thread has always been data. I've been that like data strategy person. And so that was kind of like how I came at the Husmus problem is like, okay, use what you know, right? Like what data are people using to assess risk? Is it fit for purpose? Does it work? Should we chuck it out and start again? And then after all my experimenting, I was like, yeah, I was pretty much chuck it out and start again.
Fantastic. And are you at the moment, is Husmus open for business? Can people sign up or are we on a waiting list?
Yeah, so we've got a waiting list for Husmus, so please go to the website and check it out. And if you feel it's a worthy project, then by all means, join the wait list, because we are waiting for our SCA certification, and we're working really hard with our insurance partners to make sure that everything is in tip-top shape, for people, even down to, policy documents. I don't know if anyone has ever even bothered to read policy documents before, but I tell you, we're doing the work behind the scenes, so it's stuff that you can understand, because it's conversations we're having every day to make sure that the average person can pick up their policy and read it and know what's in and what's out.
Wonderful. I normally ask people where they got their first customer from, Sarah, but if you haven't got anyone signed up yet, can you remember when you opened the wait list, maybe when the first people came and signed up? I'm guessing you go friends and family first, and then after that it's...
Yes. So it's actually an interesting thing, because we had a dilemma when we started Husmus, because we wanted to show that this model that we'd made to assess tenants was better than what was done today. But I was like, okay, how do I get people to do that? So essentially, for the first year and a half, we were masquerading as kind of like a referencing company, right? So we were referencing people the traditional way, and we were doing our way, and then just doing that side by side. Because obviously we needed the data to go and show insurance companies and say, hey guys, this is the score. So our first, a few months, we were just like a referencing company. And so I remember our first customer very, very vividly, because we literally just made it live, and an hour later, someone bought something. And I lost it. I was completely ecstatic. You would have thought that I had just won the lottery. It was, it was a £5 sale, but that was the best £5 I've ever earned in my life. So I absolutely do remember that. And the first day that we got multiple sales, which is a few weeks after that, okay, I'll confess it was pretty much the Rocky theme. Like for a good 10 minutes straight, I was running around the house with my hands in the air, singing the Rocky theme.
Wow.
Because I just couldn't believe that actually people wanted what I was selling.
And did that come from... So if you launched the website, did you then push it to social media, or did you do advertising?
Mm-hmm. So we pushed it to social media. We did a lot of partnerships, referrals. I may make myself unpopular here, but I'm saying it. I'm not giving all my money to Zuckerberg. So we built this in a way that
he hasn't subscribed to the podcast yet.
Yeah, and I'm telling him to his face, he can't have more money. So yeah, we're not in the business of using our user, pretty much what you guys are paying for premiums to give Zuckerberg et al. More money. So we built Husmus in a way that it's built a lot of user referrals. So that's kind of how we're planning to grow, because we believe in community, and we definitely know that the way that property works is that people work together anyhow. So.
That's wonderful. I think that's a really good idea. And you look at some of the biggest software growth over the last 10 years, and a lot of them are developed by that kind of customer referral virality link together. And if you have a good experience with someone, you're going to tell people and you're going to share it. And certainly with this, having a good experience, you're going to tell people. So that sounds really, really great. Thanks for that. Who are the people now that you think that should be signing up to your wait list? Who are your ideal customers?
So from the landlord's perspective, we're talking about what I term the DIY landlords. So these are the guys who do it themselves or want to do it themselves. They're the vast majority of landlords in the UK, and we're just here to make sure that they are able to remain profitable and give good experiences to their tenants. And also for tenants as well, who want to rent for private landlords, or who have big expenses, or actually just want to use their deposit money for something else. I hear PlayStation 5s are back in stock, so if you'd rather spend your money on things like that, rather than...
I thought you said you were going to give away PlayStation 5s to people that signed up.
What,
I thought
actually, we've got one.
I'll be up for that.
We're doing a giveaway. Um, this
For
is
PlayStation 5?
This is an exclusive for you, James. We have got a PlayStation 5 to give away as part of the Husmus launch. So sign up to our. We're gonna pick a random person from our wait list to win that. So yeah, we've done that because
Oh, wow.
we were in the shop for a PlayStation 5, and I was like, hey, wait, let's buy two and give one to our awesome users. So that's exactly what we did.
Brilliant. Well, we'll link up to that. Hopefully, we'll go live before the draw for the PlayStation 5 goes, and one of those JOD Pod listeners can nab one. That's absolutely fantastic. And the place to go to check out Husmus is husmus.net. That's HUSMUS.net. Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks for that, Sarah. Are you ready for some quick fire questions?
Ooh, I'll try my best.
Thank you. So, what's your favourite app or SaaS product?
So my app of the moment, to be fair, my app of the last probably 2 years is an app called Feedly. And that is it's kind of like a content manager. So it curates all of the news feeds, blogs, and things that I subscribe to, and sends me kind of like a daily summary of things. And if I wanted to deep dive further, then I can read that. So it curates all of my things, so I don't have to go from site to site to see what's going on. And that really helps me now because, to be honest, I don't have so much time being an entrepreneur and trying to balance that and just general life. This helps me keep up to date with the things that I want to know and learn about. So
you delivered that like you've been sponsored by them as well. Like that was a really professionally delivered review of Feedly. Yeah, I've heard of Feedly. It's really, really useful. And that's interesting that you use that instead of being maybe distracted by news sites or your mate Zuckerberg or anything like that. You use that as a way of disseminating your news.
Absolutely, because it's feeds that I've picked that I enjoy. And if I wanted to explore something else, I could just ask it, okay, based on my list of what I read,
wonderful,
show me something else. And that works for me. It keeps me a little bit focused rather than just
I'm with you on that. What's your most recommended book?
So I do not do nonfiction. So I'm not one of those people who would tell you, okay, read, Lean Canvas, although I have read it. My most recommended book is The Lord of the Rings because I love that story. I read it every few years. It's hilarious. I don't know the movies don't do it justice. The characters are really funny in the books, more so than they are in the movies. So I absolutely love that. So I would pick The Lord of the Rings. It just pips Anna Green Gables, but yeah, those are my two.
I love
definitely
the fact
a classic.
that you've recommended non-fiction books, non-fiction books, because I think there are lots of stories that actually inspire people that are not from reading business books. Lord of the Rings, I read when I was very young, and it's a good read. I have not read of Anna Green Gables. My book that inspires me from an entrepreneurial perspective. He's not a very popular author, and it's quite an easy read. But I really like Cain and Abel. I don't know if you've read Cain and Abel.
Okay, so I don't think I've read Cain and Abel, but I've watched the movie.
There might have been I think there was a TV movie.
Yeah, I believe I've watched the TV movie, and you make a very good point, actually. That is quite an inspiring tale, and it's one that I saw once when I was younger, but I mean, all these years, I remember it still because it stuck with me, that you can make something of yourself, even though you came from nothing. And I completely and totally buy into that. Your world is what you make it.
So you've got Cain and Abel, and then there's a follow-up to it. And then there's a follow-up to that as well, and it's about the children, and how they deliver after it. Jeffrey Archer, not the most popular author, but it's a nice read. It's inspiring in my view.
I read Jeffrey Archer. I'll own that.
Right, who's your favourite YouTuber or podcaster, Sarah?
Okay, so I like this little YouTube channel called Extra Credits. They do bite size. They do a lot of things. They review games, etc. But they also do something called extra credits history, which gives you kind of like bite-sized pieces of historical events. So it's a really great way to learn about history without having to commit to reading a whole book. If you don't have that kind of time, or if you'd rather spend it reading, Lord of the Rings, etc. Because I'm a huge history fan. I think it's important to review your past to shape your future. And there are some really interesting things that's happened over the course of history. So yeah.
That's brilliant. I've not heard of that before, but I'll add that to my YouTube list because I like bite-sized things. Micro, digestible. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. Who's someone that we should be keeping an eye on? A future Musk, Huffington, Bezos?
I see. That's a very difficult question. However, have you heard of this girl called Sarah Wernér? She started this Insurtech company because she feels like the world needs to change a little bit. I hear she's pretty cool, so you might want to keep an eye on her.
I love that, Sarah. That is, you've been so calm and self-effacing and just kind of really lovely throughout the whole thing. And then but invest in me because I'm flying. I'm the hockey stick. Invest in Sarah. Brilliant.
I mean, I was talking to someone the other day and they said to me, like, I think you're the only woman of color that I know in the insurance space that's like a founder. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it like that. But, my mission in life once I get Husmus off the ground is to drag everybody else with me. So I don't think that I'm necessarily anything extraordinary in that I have my strengths, absolutely, and I play to them. But anyone out there who wants to change the world, you can make a change to your own little patch of world, whether you're focused on your own little patch of world or literally on a global scale, i.e. Musk levels or Bezos levels. You can do it. And you can be the kind of leader that you want to be, right? Like, I mean, there are things about, we hold up Bezos and Musk, but there are things about them that I don't relate to, certainly.
Brilliant.
But you can be the kind of leader that you want.
That's what we want, Sarah. We want to shine a light on people that are going to, they're going to fly, that are going to inspire the next generation. So thank you for leaning into that. And being an example is fantastic.
No problem.
There we have it. Where's the best place for people to interact with you and your story and what Husmus are doing online?
So check out primarily Husmus on LinkedIn. We have our own company page. You might find some personal posts from me there, but I'll be dead honest. I rarely post as myself. I usually just go via the company website. So it's social media handles.
Wonderful. We'll put links to those down below so that people can follow up on that, because I think most people listening to this in the UK, just in the UK for now.
UK for now, but we definitely have global ambitions.
Good. Well, people living in the UK will follow up on it, but I think people all over the world will be interested to see what happens with Sarah Wernér and Husmus. There we have it. Sarah Wernér is the co-founder and CEO of Husmus, who provides landlords and tenants with behavioral priced insurance that makes renting inclusive and affordable. Got a first customer after launching a website an hour later. Oh my goodness, only a £5 sale, but fantastic. I can see you now running around the flat, punching the air, rocking it, and hopes to grow through
Honestly,
referrals and delivering an awesome experience for her users for the future. Really excited to see what happens with Husmus there. Sarah's most used app is Feedly, which is a great content manager tool, particularly if you suffer with shiny object syndrome and you get lost in the internet. Check out Feedly as a way of focusing that entrepreneurial but learning brain. Sarah loves reading The Lord of the Rings. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of it. It's a hell of a big tome if you pick up the whole book, but it's a very good read, and hopefully that journey that they go on there has probably inspired Sarah. I'm sure it has. What would Frodo do? She loves watching Extra Credits channel on YouTube, particularly their bite-sized history segments. She loves learning and in particular being aware of history. And we should be keeping an eye on the little-known entrepreneur, Sarah Wernér, who's going to be the next big thing. I think after this podcast, a lot of people are going to be following up with you, Sarah, and wanting to hear more about you and your story. Excited to be in here first on the Sarah Wernér story trail. And you can see what Sarah's doing at Husmus by going to husmus.net. That's HUSMUS.net, and leave your email address, and Sarah will let you put you on the waiting list so that you can take advantage of her awesome product. Sarah, thank you for joining us today on the JOD Pod.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you for joining us today on the JOD Pod. If you want to hear more inspirational stories just like Sarah's, you need to play the YouTube game. Hit subscribe, hit like, hit the bell so you get the notification every time we upload a new video. And let's ask Sarah some questions in the comments. I will bully Sarah to come back and answer every single one of these questions because Sarah is making waves and inspiring the next generation. I want to hear what you are going to create after hearing what Sarah has done. Please be inspired, go build something and inspire the next generation. Thanks for joining us today on the JOD Pod. If you enjoyed this interview, why don't you check out some of these other interviews that we've done on the JOD Pod. More inspirational CEOs, coaches, entrepreneurs, founders and authors. I'm sure there's something here that will inspire you to build something new.